It was supposed to be a breakthrough. The prototype sat in the center of Hangar 47, a jet engine unlike any built before. Classified. Streamlined. Rumored to be invisible to thermal satellites. Its name wasn't even listed on official documents. Only a codename, Ares 9. The hangar was cold, sterile. Lights hummed above. Engineers in black suits moved like surgeons. Outside. The world had no idea what was inside this structure. A machine that, if it worked, could shift the balance of power. But now, it was silent. 2 days before the demonstration. Ares 9 refused to start. No warning. No malfunction logs. No overheating. Just silence. A stillness that rattled more than any explosion could. One by one, they brought in the best. AI diagnostic systems. Thermal mapping. Pressure tests. Nothing. The readouts came back clean. The system claimed all functions were optimal. But when the ignition was pressed. Nothing. No hum. No response. Not even a cough of resistance. It was like trying to wake a ghost that had never been alive. Colonel Reyes stood with arms crossed, jaw tight. He'd staked his career on this engine. Ares 9 was supposed to be the centerpiece of tomorrow's demonstration. An unveiling to top military brass and international observers. Now, all he had was silence. Dr. Mendez, the lead systems engineer, looked exhausted. "We've tried everything," she muttered. "The AI doesn't see anything wrong." Reyes didn't respond. He simply stared at the engine, as if willing it to breathe. A junior officer approached cautiously. Second Lieutenant Rourke. Young. Sharp. Too observant for his rank. "Sir," he said, voice low. "There might be one more person we haven't called." Reyes barely turned. "Who?" "We've cycled through 3 engineering teams. Even Lockwood's quantum division." Rourke hesitated. "He's not with the military anymore," he said carefully. "Retired. Civilian. But, he used to work on the older models. Before everything went digital." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Name?" "Briggs. James Briggs." The room seemed to pause. Someone chuckled dryly near the wall. "Briggs," a voice scoffed. "You mean the guy who used to fix engines by sound? What's he going to do, talk to it?" Rourke didn't blink. "He doesn't talk much anymore. But when I was a kid, my father served at Coldstone. He said Briggs once repaired a B-52 mid-flight using only a wrench, a lighter, and chewing gum." Another silence. Colonel Reyes sighed. "This engine has $300 billion behind it. 15 years of research. Quantum AI oversight. And you want to call in an old mechanic?" Rourke nodded. "Sir, no one understands why it won't start." "And Briggs? He never needed a manual. He listened." Reyes glanced at the unmoving core of Ares 9. The machine that refused to speak. He looked back at Rourke. "Where is he?" "He arrived just after dusk. No escort. No briefing. Just a name on a clipboard and a nod from the gate guard. Briggs. He didn't wear a uniform. No stars. No ribbons. Just a worn-out leather jacket, the kind that still smelled faintly of engine oil and winter rain. His boots were old. Scuffed. One of the laces was knotted in the middle. Like it had snapped years ago and never been replaced. He walked with a slight limp. Not enough to ask about. But enough to remember. The hangar doors opened with a metallic groan. Inside. The air was tense. Sterile. Technicians paused. Some frowned. Some whispered. That's him. I thought he was taller. Doesn't even have a tablet. Briggs ignored them all. His eyes, gray, sharp, and steady, locked onto the heart of the hangar. Aries, 9. He moved slowly, not because of age, but because he respected machines the way some men respect graves. No questions. No greetings. No hesitation. He approached the silent engine and crouched down. One hand gently resting on the side of the housing. Like a priest laying a hand on a coffin. He didn't look at the screen. Didn't ask for diagnostics. Didn't want the schematic. He closed his eyes. And listened. Seconds passed. Someone coughed in the background. A technician muttered under his breath. But Briggs was still. Completely still. Only his fingers moved, slowly tracing the curve of the metal. Finally, he spoke. Soft. Low. Almost to himself. She's breathing wrong. A murmur rippled through the hangar. Briggs didn't open his eyes. There's tension in her core line, he said. She's holding her breath. Like she's afraid to ignite. One of the engineers stepped forward. That's impossible. The AI reported optimal pressure across. Briggs raised a finger. Not to silence him, but to listen closer. Then. He did something no one expected. He placed his ear against the engine. Yes. An old man. With nothing but his instincts. Listening to a $300 billion machine like it was whispering a secret. And maybe, it was. After a moment, he leaned back. Left intake valve, he said. She's not stuck. She's hesitating. Another chuckle behind him. One of the younger engineers scoffed. What does that even mean? Machines don't hesitate. Briggs turned to face him. Calm. Flat. They do, he said. When they remember something went wrong. The room fell quiet. Briggs stood up, slowly, stiffly, and pulled a small tool from his coat. Not digital. Just a simple metal tuning fork, hand-marked, dented, old. He tapped it gently against the engine housing. A soft tone rang out, low, hollow. He frowned. Too cold, he muttered. She's withdrawing. Then he smiled, faintly. The kind of smile you give an old friend who's lost their way. It's okay, girl, he whispered. I'm here now. And he sat down beside her, not to fix her. To reassure her. Like a man who knew that machines, especially the great ones, carry more than wires and fuel. They carry memory. And sometimes, they just need someone who remembers too. Briggs didn't ask for permission. He stood. And with steady hands, though time had clearly worn their strength. He reached into the side pocket of his coat. From it, he pulled a small cloth pouch. Frayed. Stained with old oil. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside, was a set of hand tools. Not standard issue. Not modern. Each piece was hand-filed, hand-balanced. One of them bore a serial code from AB-52 Stratofortress, engraved by hand during the Cold War. He selected one. A slim, curved key with a chipped handle. Then, without a word, he approached the base of Aries, 9. He knelt again, this time facing the auxiliary panel near the rear intake. And tapped. 3 times. Even. Calm. Measured. Tap. 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 The sound echoed across the hangar. Hollow. Metallic. Like someone knocking on a sealed tomb. Everyone watched. No one spoke. With practiced fingers. He slid the tool beneath a narrow panel, almost invisible to the eye, and pried it open with a soft metallic click. Beneath it, a cluster of pressure valves, tightly packed and frost-lined. Briggs exhaled slowly. "Third valve," he whispered. "She's choked." A tech whispered behind him, "That's impossible. Our sensors show balanced pressure." Briggs didn't turn. "She's compensating," he replied. "She doesn't know she's stuck. The AI thinks it's helping, but it's just masking the hesitation." He reached inside with the key. His hand didn't shake. He adjusted the valve a quarter turn. Then paused. Listened. Still too tight. He turned it again. Gently. Just a breath's width more. Suddenly, a faint sound. A click. Soft. But deliberate. Like a heartbeat returning after being held too long. Briggs leaned back. Rested his hand on the frame. Closed his eyes. "She's free now." He stood. Stepped back. And nodded once, to no one in particular. The lead tech glanced at Colonel Reyes, who gave a tense nod. The ignition sequence began. Everyone took a step back. Every technician held their breath. 3, 2, 1. A low hum. Then a rumble. The lights in the hangar dimmed slightly as power surged. Ares 9 came alive. The engine lit, not in a roar, but in a deep, resonant growl. Smooth. Confident. Clean. It was like listening to a cello, low, rich, perfect. The kind of sound you didn't just hear. You felt it. Through the soles of your feet. Through the bones in your chest. The hangar stood still. No one cheered. No one moved. It wasn't just success, it was reverence. Like witnessing something sacred. The lead tech broke the silence. What did you do?" Briggs didn't answer immediately. He stepped forward. Ran his fingers across the side of the now living machine. Then turned, voice quiet but firm. "She didn't need fixing," he said. "She needed someone to remember how she breathes." Another silence. Colonel Reyes approached. "How the hell did you know?" Briggs shrugged slightly. Almost smiled. "I've heard that choke before," he said. 30 years ago, off the coast of Okinawa. Mid-air. One of our engines seized in the cold. She made the same sound." He looked down at his tools. Then back at Ares 9. She wasn't broken. She was scared. The hum of the engine still lingered in the air. Not loud, but powerful. Like a ghost that had finally remembered how to sing. Briggs stood quietly beside it. His hand resting on the frame. As if saying goodbye to something that once trusted him. Then came the voice. "Sir." It was young. Nervous. Second Lieutenant Rourke. He stepped forward. Unsure if he was allowed to speak. Briggs turned slightly, just enough to show he was listening. "How did you know?" Rourke asked. "How did you fix what no one could even detect?" Briggs didn't answer at first. Instead, he looked at the ceiling, eyes clouded. Not with confusion, but memory. Then, a soft chuckle. "I've heard that sound before," he said. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "The night we almost lost the Pacific." Rourke blinked. "What happened?" Briggs took a breath, not the kind you take before telling a story. But the kind you take when a story lives inside you. It was 86. Tempest-class long-range bomber. She was old, even back then. He smiled, barely. "We were flying recon south of Midway. Unexpected storm rolled in, real bad one. Visibility 0. Static all over the radar. And then, left engine choked. He tapped the air with his fingers. 2 beats. Then silence. As if replaying that moment in real time. She made that same stuttering hum. Not mechanical. Not structural. It was like, she didn't want to push forward. He paused again. And I remember, he said quietly. Sitting underneath her wing in the pouring rain. With nothing but a wrench and a half-dead flashlight. Listening to the casing vibrate. Like it was calling out, like it was afraid. Rourke didn't speak. No one did. Because in that moment, the hangar wasn't a hangar anymore. It was a stormy night in the Pacific. A half-lit tarmac. A lonely man under a giant, silent bird. Briggs continued. It wasn't just the noise, you see. It was the rhythm. The pattern. You learn to feel it. Not with your mind. But with your bones. He looked down at his hands. Oil-stained. Calloused. Scarred. These hands, he said. They don't shake because of age. They shake because they remember too much. He turned back to the engine. Every engine I ever touched. From the thunder of the old B-52s. To the whisper of classified drones. They all spoke the same language. He tapped his chest. And if you listen with this. Not with screams, not with code. But with this. They tell you what's wrong. The engineers nearby were silent now. Even the colonel leaned in, quietly watching. Rourke stepped closer. You talk about them like they're alive. Briggs nodded. They are. In a way. He pointed toward Ares 9. That machine, he said. She's more than metal and microchips. She holds pressure. Heat. Momentum. And sometimes, fear. He let that word hang in the air. Fear. Rourke echoed. Briggs looked him in the eye. Not like people. But engines remember trauma too. They overcompensate. They hesitate. He tapped the intake panel gently. She stalled today not because of a broken part. But because somewhere, in her core. She remembered something going wrong. And no code, no sensor. Can understand that. He let his hand fall. Only someone who's been through it. Another pause. Then he added. That's why I came. Not to fix her. To remind her. She wasn't alone. The engine was running. Stable. Clean. Strong. But Briggs didn't stay to watch it purr. He gathered his tools slowly, wrapping each one back in its stained cloth. With the same reverence a soldier might use to fold a flag. No words. No photos. No handshakes. He left the hangar like he'd entered it. Quiet, unnoticed. A shadow that passed through greatness without ever asking for it. Outside, the sky had shifted. The storm clouds were clearing. The wind smelled of dust and jet fuel. He walked toward the gate with a slow, steady stride. The kind of walk you take when there's nothing left to prove. As he neared the perimeter of the base. He paused. There, by the entrance. Stood a forgotten display. An old engine mounted on a pedestal. Faded plaque. Cracked paint. But Briggs saw it like it was yesterday. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the cold. Rusted housing. I once told her to hold on, he whispered. A breath. A silence. And she did. His hand lingered for a moment. Not for nostalgia. But for gratitude. Behind him. Footsteps approached. A young voice called out, hesitant, respectful. Sir. Briggs turned slightly. It was a young engineer. Not more than 25. Fresh uniform. Clear eyes. I just wanted to ask, the engineer said. Were you ever decorated? Briggs looked at him. Then, smiled. Not out of pride. But out of memory. Decorations fade, he said. His voice wasn't bitter. Just honest. But engines, they remember who loved them. The engineer didn't know what to say. So Briggs gave him something better. He reached into his coat and pulled out a single object. A small, flat coin. Grease-stained. Etched with an old squadron number. He handed it to the engineer. Not for display, Briggs said. For listening. Then, without waiting for thanks, he turned, and walked away. Down the long concrete path. Past the security gate. Past the fences. Into the kind of dusk that welcomes men who never needed spotlights. Back in the hangar. The engine still ran. Techs surrounded it, amazed. But someone quiet, stood near the back. It was Colonel Reyes. He said nothing. Only watched. And thought to himself. Sometimes. When the machines stop talking. You don't need another engineer. You need a man who remembers how to listen. Backhand index pointing right. If this story moved you, share it. Because sometimes, machines don't need fixing. They just need to be remembered by someone, who once believed in their voice.